So I have a historical minute and on the Mount Laurel doctrine, low-income housing, and Summit. Some of this may be a little bit duplicative of what Council President just said, but it's still pretty short, so I think if you guys bear with me, we'll get through it just fine. The Supreme Court of New Jersey says Summit, like all municipalities, has a constitutional duty not to exclude viable opportunities to construct affordable housing. The legislature took this Mount Laurel doctrine, or Mount Laurel, as it's often called, a step further in the Fair Housing Act. The act essentially requires each municipality to facilitate its fair share of affordable housing decade after decade, each decade referred to as a round. The spirit of Mount Laurel is to promote economic diversity throughout New Jersey, while still allowing municipalities like Summit to choose realistic options to create and or maintain affordable housing that work optimally for that municipality, the latter being the concept of home rule. Of course, this is nothing new for Summit. Economic diversity has always been a hallmark of the Hill City, which was once known as Poverty Hill. So when housing on Glenwood Place, home to lower income families in Summit, became woefully substandard in the 1960s, Common Council and Hill citizens jumped into action. The council pledged to match private donations to fund the Glenwood Place Rehabilitation Program, which is the 40-unit housing development we see there today. Our residents raised over $632,000 through private donations and not through taxes in the late 1960s. Let's put that in perspective for a minute. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, that $632,000 is equivalent to $6.1 million today. The city never did need to match the number since federal funding ultimately covered the balance, according to a May 20th, 1971 Summit Herald article. The same article notes Summit opted to build the development right on Glenwood Place, quote, to keep dislocations to an absolute minimum and because of a marked scarcity of vacant land elsewhere. I note that over half a century later, Summit still has a marked scarcity of vacant land. Two more developments followed at Weaver Street and the Vito Gallo building for a total of 195 low-income housing units. Now, most people equate low-income housing, which is for households with earnings at or below 50% of regional median family income, with affordable housing, which is for households with earnings up to 80% of regional median family income, but they are different. Notwithstanding, under Mount Laurel and the Fair Housing Act, low-income housing counts towards municipalities affording housing numbers, but for some reason not in Summit. Apparently, Summit's historical preference to its own residents for low-income housing is a big no-no with Trenton, and units for preferences count a whopping 0 towards our numbers. Still, I know of no other similarly situated municipality with the economic diversity we have in Summit. A telling example is that 15% of Summit High School students receive free or reduced price meals, compared to just 1% in our neighbor Chatham. Don't get me wrong, the Mount Laurel doctrine proclaims a noble aspiration for which every municipality should strive, that of inclusionary affordable housing. But in practice, fair share enforcement has become a home rule eviscerating nightmare, controlled not by each municipality, but by the affordable housing industrial complex. Builders, planners, lawyers, consultants, and other professionals, and some say the politicians they support. What do I mean by this? Well, even though the law requires a town like Summit not to be exclusionary, and maybe even to take affirmative steps to create opportunities for affordable housing, we need builders to fund it. And builders will fund it, but they exact a heavy price in the form of density. They'll provide affordable housing, but only if we let them overdevelop our city by providing just one affordable for every 5 units built. Summit likewise is compelled to spend countless dollars on other professionals, all to achieve something it already has. Indeed, if economic diversity were truly the goal of Mount Laurel, Summit would be roundly commended for its demographics as they now stand and which existed long before a bunch of politicians and bureaucrats took it upon themselves to dictate our fate. Instead, Summit is vilified by our own residents in many instances, and cowed into more and more developed and more density. Wouldn't all that money be better spent upgrading Glenwood, Weaver, and Vito Gallo? Anyway, the law still allows Summit to decide for itself how to best meet its affordable housing obligations over the next 10 years in round 4. But if we sit on our rights, if we succumb to threats of builder's remedy, along with governmental and quasi-governmental overreach from fair share housing, we will lose those rights. If we accede to the scourge of new urbanism, we will cease to be the charming suburb we all know and love. We will no longer be Summit. So I ask everyone to keep this history in mind as public input continues regarding our round 4 affordable housing planning, and know that Summit will provide a plan consistent with the law, with our master plan, and with our values.
Thank you, Councilman Pawlowski.